What is up, guys? This is Chase Oliver 68 here. So, this Saturday on Fox, 6 o'clock, I believe, my time, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock Central time, 7 o'clock, whatever time you're in, we got a huge fight and a huge opportunity for the UFC. The UFC will be going mainstream as they will be on Fox, featuring main event fight between Cain and Junior Dos Santos for the heavyweight title. From what I believe is, this will be the only fight on the card, so people who are wondering, are there other fights? Is the Coy Guida, Ben Henderson fight's going to be on there? Are these guys going to be on there? No, they will not be on there, sadly enough. But hey, it is what it is. You got to move on. Because, really, to be honest, when you're looking at this from a casual fan, in this video, this is going to be me explaining how the UFC needs to present this show. In my opinion, I know Dana White's a motherfucking genius, and he probably has a better idea than mine. But this is just me as a fan coming out there to say, how do you make UFC more mainstream and make it where casual fans can literally sit down and watch the event and love what they're seeing on their TV? So, to be honest, let me give you my backstory on MMA. I got a lot of my fans and friends into MMA, to be honest. I was always a huge MMA fan. You can ask me almost any MMA question. I can probably answer it with ease. Not all the time. I'm not like a super genius with MMA. Many of my friends do think I am a super genius with MMA, but I don't put myself as that. I invited them over to UFC 100 because they were hearing the noise about that. They absolutely loved the show. And then my house eventually became my old house, not this house. I haven't thrown any parties for it yet, but I will in the future. My house became eventually, when there was a UFC card, my friends would give me money or would say, hey, are you going to order this card? And I'll be like, maybe. You know, I don't order every card. That would be a shitload of money to waste. But every time there's a huge fight, I'll tell my friends about it. I'll make some fried chicken, order pizza, have parties for this event. And my friends will enjoy it. And really, I would tell them some history between these fighters and tell them all about it. And they say, wow, that's just fucking awesome. Like, they're into it. And these were casual fans. They're casual people. They're not really huge into MMA, but they're casual fans. They know the gist of MMA. They know what I'm talking about because I explained it to them. And that's what the UFC needs to do. They need to explain to these people who turn on the TV, see this on Fox, what is MMA, what's the history of UFC, what do you need to do to make you get into the UFC. One hint I would give to make people get into the UFC easily is notify who your champions are in the UFC. I get it that there's a Stephen Bonner Forrest Griffin fight you want to show, but you can show that later on in the thing, and I'll explain how you show that off. Notify who your champions are. Because one thing you want to make sure is that when people do tune into this event, and you have a huge card coming up with John Jones and at UFC 140, I believe, the following month, you want to make sure people know who this guy is and who the champions are, so that way they're pumped up and want to order that card. Example, show highlight packages of these guys fighting and show highlight packages saying the champions of UFC. Show footage of Dominic Cruz, Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar, George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, John Jones. Of course, Cain Velasquez is there, but make sure you focalize the point. He is the heavyweight champion. That's it pretty much. Show fights that really show the excellence of these champions and what makes them champions. Show highlights of their career. If I were making a highlight package for Dominic Cruz, I'll definitely show the suplex that he just recently did on Demetrius Johnson. I'll show his dominance on Uriah Faber, rocking Faber a couple times. I'll make sure I show Dominic Cruz's wrestling ability. I'll make sure I show the quickness and the orthodox fighting style for Frankie Edgar. Show that knockout that he recently did on Gray Maynard. Show the heart and resiliency. If you want to really make Frankie Edgar into a champion people love, because guarantee many people will get behind Frankie Edgar and love this kid. Frankie Edgar is a lovable character in the UFC. You see this motherfucker get his ass kicked in the first round. He's getting his ass beaten, and then this guy comes back, wins fights, gets fights into draws. That's a Rocky Balboa story, and many people are sassed for Rocky Balboa stories. Make that happen. Show Frankie Edgar getting his ass kicked, and then show him fighting through adversity, doing that six slam on Gray Maynard, knocking down Gray Maynard. That could easily sell Frankie Edgar right there as a champion and make people want to order events for him. Or GSP. Recently, GSP is not the same fighter he has been in the past, but show up his standoff, show off his takedowns, talk about his takedowns, show off what he can do and what makes him this complete fighter. I mean, many hardcore MMA fans are going to know, oh, well, GSP is not really like that. They'll tell their friends that. But really, if a casual fan is just turning on, he doesn't have an MMA friend next to him or anything, and he just sees this, he's going to be like, wow, this guy's a fucking monster. Show past clips of GSP if you want. And make sure you make it GSP because you're on Fox. Super Bowl weekend, I get it, this is November and February, but GSP's fighting on Super Bowl weekend. If this guy's a casual fan and he sees GSP and sees this highlight clip and he hears, oh, this guy's going to be fighting on Super Bowl weekend, God, what better way to make my weekend of the Super Bowl complete? Order this UFC card where I see this GSP character, and not only that, get to taste the UFC a little bit more outside of Fox. Speaking of champions, Anderson Silva, what fucking highlight reels can you not show this guy? Front kick to Vitor Belfort, the little paw to Forrest Griffin, the triangle choke from Chael Sonnen. Holy shit, Anderson Silva can become huge from this opportunity. Anderson Silva is not very a drawing champion. As many people love Anderson Silva in the MMA community or hate him, his buy rates on pay-per-views are very, very low. They don't really reach that high unless it's like a huge fight that people care about. Vitor Belfort, people cared about that fight because many of the old UFC fans saw Vitor Belfort and were like, holy shit, Vitor's fighting this guy, Anderson Silva, who I've heard been dominating on all his pay-per-view matches. I'm going to order this show and watch to see who's going to dominate. These guys are strikers. We're going to get a striking battle. Front up kick later and bam. Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva. Probably one of the best promoted, in my opinion, UFC events in a long time. My friends, literally UFC 117, I ordered UFC 116. I didn't want to order UFC 117. My friends wanted UFC 117. They were so amused what Chael Sonnen was saying. They were saying, some people were saying, I want Chael Sonnen to get his ass kicked. Some of my friends were saying, I want Chael Sonnen to win. Chael Sonnen was promoting that fight to the point where it made you interested in it. He was using tactics, insulting Anderson Silva and making you want to see that fight. And to be honest, those are the two hugest buy rates for Anderson Silva in his career in the UFC. I've done my history homework. I'm pretty sure I know that. So pretty much you got a lot of highlights for Anderson Silva. Another highlight machine is Jon Jones. Jon Jones is a guy that easily can be loved for the casual fans. Many hardcore fans are distancing away from Jon Jones due to his attitude. But many of these casual fans don't know fucking Jon Jones' attitude. I mean, really, you just show how this guy's peaceful. You show his beliefs in Philippines 4:13. I believe that's the Bible scripture. You talk about what he does. Show up his unorthodox style, his knees to Shogun, his elbows to Vladimir. You just show off all those packages, and then finally you end it with a choke on Rampage. That's how you sell Jon Jones. And Jon Jones, being at the young age he is, he's a dominant guy, and a guy that really, really could show a lot to UFC. One guy I forgot to mention before I go on to Cain Velasquez was Jose Aldo. I forgot to mention about Jose Aldo. I apologize. Jose Aldo hasn't been finishing fights in the UFC, but he has finished fights in the WEC. He does some crazy moves in his fights. Show off those crazy moves. The double knee to Cub Swanson, I think that would sell a lot of people to know who this guy is as a dangerous motherfucker, especially since he's fighting soon as well, along with Jon Jones. When it comes down to Cain Velasquez, this whole show is going to be focused around him, so you got to put a huge focus on Cain Velasquez and show what he can do in the UFC. Now, I know you guys are thinking, well, if this show is supposed to be a UFC show, why is it only an hour long? And why is it that there's only one fight? Well, because the whole point is to draw casual fans into this sport. You want to draw casual fans in before you move on forward with this sport. And that's the whole thing of this show. You want to make sure the casual fans are in love with it. You want to make sure the casual fans want to watch it all the time. And that's how you make it happen, by showing off the champions and showing off fights in the past. Now, when it comes down to fights in the past, no brainer here. Any UFC fan who says this, really, to be honest, I don't think it's the best fight in UFC history, but it's definitely a fight that you want to show your fans, because this is a fight that kind of made the UFC in a way. Forrest Griffin and Stephan Bonnar. Not the best fight in UFC history by any means, but, well, many say it is, but to me, not the best fight. My favorite fight of all time is Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen, but maybe I'm on Anderson Silva's nuts. Who gives a fuck? These two went at it round after round after round, you know, just destroying each other, making it entertaining as hell, and it had people going, hey man, go check out this card, go check out the show. These two are beating the shit at each other on Spike TV, and it drew a huge cable rating for the UFC, and because they were seeing these guys just go at it and beat the living shit out of each other. The crowd in that arena was going crazy, well, not arena, in the casino was going crazy, but hell man, that put the UFC on the freaking map when it came to fights. That fight is the fight that people want to see, and show highlights of that. Guaranteed you'll get a lot of things. Another fight, my personal favorite, my favorite fight of all time, Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen. Especially if you do hype up Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva, think about it. Chael Sonnen was kicking Anderson Silva's ass. And then the heart of the champion came in, where Anderson Silva gets the triangle choke, Chael Sonnen taps out, Anderson Silva wins the fight. What better way to just show off more of your middleweight champion and a guy to produce more buy rates for than by showing off that clip? More fights I would show is some Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz fights. Show some vicious knockouts. Show these fans that, hey, not only do these guys go to the decision, but these guys can knock each other out. Show a knockout compilation from Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, Cain Velasquez, especially Anderson Silva, your champions. Make sure people know who these people are by the end of the night. And so by the end of the night, they're not MMA geniuses, but they can name you at least all the UFC champions, who's the UFC champions, and some of the bigger names like Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, and Tito Ortiz. That's the main mission here. You want to make sure people are familiar with your fighters, so that way when they go back and they see a UFC pay-per-view and it says Cruz versus Faber, for example, Cruz versus Faber 3. They go look at it and say, oh, I remember Dominic Cruz. I saw him on that Fox show. And I really did enjoy that UFC on Fox show. That main event was fucking crazy. I'm going to order this card. I saw this Dominic Cruz, like he just literally suplexed some dude. You know, you got to make sure that these champions are very well off when it comes down to producing them. Because really, casual fans can get turned off from the program if they do order a UFC. They don't know who these champions are. They order a UFC just because they heard these names and someone told them they're big names, and the fight ends up disappointing. At least when they see highlight packages for the champions and they order the fight and the fight's not what they expected, at least they get a good understanding of maybe why the fight was disappointing. I don't know. I just feel name recognition could help out the buys for the UFC, in my opinion. And you got to show out the champions and you got to show off fights. You got to make sure that they know most of their big games, and especially when you have UFC 139, that literally the next week with Shogun versus Henderson and Kunle versus Vanderlei Silva. Pump the shit out of that. I want a sit-down interview with Shogun Rua and Dan Henderson, and before that sit-down interview, I want a freaking highlight package of Shogun and Henderson's knockouts, because guarantee, if I'm a casual fan, I'm not going to understand this whole, oh, they're on the ground, what the fuck is this bullshit, oh, what the hell are they doing, oh, this is boring. I'm not going to understand that. I'm not going to be entertained by that. That's why Dana White put in Cain Velasquez and Junior Dos Santos, because he knows casual fans love knockouts. Casual fans love it when a guy gets dropped. And that's the thing. He wants to make sure these guys just stand in bang and make this entertaining as hell. When it comes down to that, Shogun Rua and Dan Henderson, you got pay-per-view next week. You got this huge UFC on Fox card. Promote the shit out of that. Make sure Shogun and Dan Henderson are treated like champions, and then you show this interview. You show Shogun Rua's knockouts on legends like Chuck Liddell. You show Dan Henderson's vicious knockout on Bisping. You show all these knockouts that these two have, and especially Dan Henderson showing the knockout on Fedor. How good is that video package? You know, you show all these packages, and then you have the sit-down interview between both of these men, and you can see what these guys are like. People are going to order this card because you are guaranteed a knockout, and most people are fans of knockouts in the UFC, and that most casual fans are. They don't like when a fight goes too long. Some fans are, when it comes to casuals, you know, they like fights where it's more, we're going to stand and bang, just go. just look sloppy, but hey, we're gonna stand in vain, and that's how most casual fans are. And I'll agree, even if it's sloppy, sometimes I do enjoy fights like that. It gets me pumped up a lot. So that's why I said show Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner. Show fights that are entertaining. Show fights like Chuck Liddell, Wanderlei Silva. That's why I said that. Because you gotta look at this the way. Hardcore MMA fans, this is not an event for you to watch. And I'm saying this for myself. I'm throwing a party because, hell, I'm fucking excited it's on Fox. My friends, they're saying, Chase, the UFC's on Fox. Finally, aren't you fucking excited? I'm like, hell yeah, I'm fucking excited. Because I don't give a shit if it's another history lesson for me in the UFC. I pretty much know most of the UFC's past. Maybe there's something that will shock me from it. But, hell, I'm going to enjoy this because finally the UFC's on Fox. Most people are like, oh, I don't like that it's going mainstream. It's fucking bullshit. Who cares if it's going mainstream? Enjoy the fucking product. Aren't you fucking happy that UFC's going mainstream? Oh no, is it because it's not as brutal anymore? Who cares? It's not brutal. Neither is boxing. Most people still watch boxing. These are the same people that watch boxing too. They say, well, MMA is not brutal anymore, but boxing still is. Really? When's the last time I saw a fucking brutal boxing fight? If it doesn't include Manny Pacquiao's fist in someone's face, then I haven't seen someone fucked up in a long time when it comes to boxing. That's the fucking fact. Don't say I don't watch boxing, because I watch Showtime After Dark and HBO After Dark all the fucking time. I watch those, and I really have seen a couple of wars in boxing, but nothing to the point where it's vicious by any means. And that's coming from me. I watch all that stuff. I love fights. I love watching fights. And unless it comes from Manny Pacquiao's fist hitting the other person's face, I don't see anyone getting fucked up at all in boxing. So when boxing fans that say, oh, I don't like that MMA is going mainstream because, it's not going to be vicious anymore and it's just stupid. Who cares? MMA going mainstream, it's huge for the sport. Who knows? Maybe 2 years down the line, Super Bowl halftime show. How fucking sick would that be? How big would that be for the UFC? How cool would that be to introduce fans to MMA? Me being as a fan, I want to see this shit grow. I've been a fan since 2004. I've seen this shit grow so crazy. From the phase where I was just a UFC fan to a phase where in 2008 when the first video game came out and everyone else started to become fans, to a phase where now it's just like people do care about the UFC. UFC is a cool thing to talk about. UFC is a thing that you want to watch. And to me, as fans and as people that are bitching that the UFC is going mainstream, who cares? That's the whole point. Tough luck. Sorry that you're not going to get this underground thing that you all knew about. Sorry. I don't want to be the only guy in my group of friends that knows about the UFC. I want everyone to be talking about UFC. I mean, everyone else talks about football, basketball. We all can argue about that. But when it comes to UFC arguments, none of my friends straight up can't handle with me. They don't know what they're talking about. They will say something and I'll be like, no, that never happened. I mean, that's a fact. So, to be honest, I want this shit to grow. And for all you diehards that feel like it's dying, it's growing bigger than ever. And I hope it lasts for a long time. Sorry for that little rant, but that's what I gotta go with. So pretty much, I'm talking about UFC on Fox. You wanna know my quick prediction? Velasquez versus Dos Santos. I gotta go with Cain Velasquez. His wrestling is just so good. The sleeper in this match is Dos Santos' BJJ. But pretty much this video was not a predictions video. This was a video to show how can you promote UFC on Fox to be a great show and be a good show for casual fans. Thank you all for watching this video. I know it went a little bit long, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Watch UFC on Fox on Saturday. You will enjoy it. If you're a guy trying to get into MMA, go watch this show. You will love it. You'll learn history behind the scenes. It may not be the history that I was pointing out, but maybe watching this video got you a little bit of UFC history lesson and learn about the champions. Maybe, who knows? But I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment down below, subscribe up above, follow me on Twitter, watch UFC on Fox, enjoy your weekend, Veterans Day. Thank you to all the troops. Pretty much what all I gotta say, and I say peace.